This is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Anani Mouse. And Anani Mouse has this question. Can your familiar be your soulmate? And by familiar, I assume we're speaking about an actual physical animal familiar, as opposed to a familiar spirit. And soulmate, well, soulmate is a problematic term for me. It's on my list of terms I do not like, largely because of how it's used and because it admits of multiple definitions, some of which I regard as being not particularly helpful in any context. And in fact, the answer to this question hangs entirely on the definition of that term soulmate, at least when I'm answering it, and what is meant by that. Some people have the understanding of soulmate, and it's not a new idea. It is an old idea, but they have the understanding that each person has just one other soul in the universe who is perfect for them and will complete them if only they can find that one perfect soul, and then everything will be perfect in their lives, and otherwise it can never be. And I consider that to be nonsense. If that's what you mean by soulmate, no, your familiar cannot be your soulmate, and neither can anything else, because no other soul is going to complete you. You must complete yourself. No other soul will make your life perfect, although interaction with other souls can certainly benefit your life. You can have all kinds of good things come from it, but in the end, they cannot complete you if you are not complete in yourself. Nor do I believe there can be only one. And I would point out that no matter how much we may love our spouse, even if two people spend their lives together, except for the most extraordinary circumstances, one will die before the other, sometimes by decades. And we very often see people who then remarry and are perfectly happy again in a different marriage with a different person who is presumably a different soul. Therefore, I reject out of hand the idea that there is one perfect soulmate for you, and I think it's a very bad idea. I think it is used to reinforce all kinds of negative assumptions about the self and negative social patterns. Having said that, if what you mean by soulmate is instead a soul with whom you have an affinity or an energetic connection, well, that's an entirely different idea. And if what you mean by soulmate is any number of souls with whom you have such a connection, with whom you will feel a familiarity, with whom you may have an instant positive or negative feeling, well, that I would agree with absolutely. Souls do often re-encounter one another in many different lifetimes, and they can build very strong relationships that way. But it's not just one. It's not your other half, it's another soul with whom you have a relationship. So that is an entirely different understanding of the term. That understanding I'm fine with, but it isn't what most people mean. And if this is what we mean by soulmate, well, then the answer to this question might be yes. I do believe that animals, like humans, reincarnate. In fact, I believe our souls ultimately are the same. And certainly you can have shared many other existences with the soul that is currently your familiar. You may ultimately be part of the same monad. You may be manifestations of the same soul in a different point in the continuum of existence. There are all kinds of different ways in which you might have a special affinity with that familiar. And if that's what we mean by soulmate, if we mean a soulmate as opposed to the idea of the soulmate, well, then yes, theoretically, it could be a soulmate to you. But if we're talking about the highly romanticized idea of your one perfect partner, I would say get it out of your head. It is not a positive or helpful idea, and it encourages people to believe that they cannot help themselves. I think that's the worst part of it. The idea that there is this one perfect other half gives a person the idea they cannot help themselves, they cannot make themselves happy, they cannot improve their own life, that they have to passively wait for another. And I think this is a very, very bad idea. But again, if we mean a soulmate, well, yes, certainly. There are many different souls that you will find in life that you will have a pre-existing affinity for, sometimes a very positive one, occasionally a very negative one, sometimes a kind of love-hate affinity. And these are built up through various lifetimes, energetic connections, and sometimes because it's manifestations either of your own soul or your own monad, and there will be a recognition there. In all of those cases, if that's what we mean, well, yes, your familiar may be part of that. So those would be my thoughts on that subject. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from witchschool.com. Are you looking for the best in pagan and magical education? With more than 12,000 pages, witchschool.com is like having your own personal library with individual learning assistants to help you study. And Witchschool's Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere education system is available any place on Earth, anywhere you are and anytime you want it, as long as you have an internet connection. Witchschool's lifetime memberships are a great value. They really do last a lifetime. They've been there for years and they'll be there for years to come. So get your membership today at witchschool.com.